All right, the good old gym. To some, a very scary place. To some, home, home away from home, a sanctuary. And to some, even a church. And speaking of churches, over my years spent in many boxing gyms, I've noticed some great similarities between the boxing gym and a church. And I'd like to share some of those with you today. So I'm going to start with the congregation, because that's what makes a church or gym, not the location, but the actual congregation, the people that conduct themselves in the church. Obviously, we're talking boxing gym, so we're talking about boxers and the coach. Another observation can be made is that the coach could actually be the pastor and the minister also, because he's always spreading the word and the sermon of boxing to all those that will listen. Another observation is the speaking in tongues. If you're familiar with certain churches, this is a normal occurrence. I've noticed this in the boxing gym, especially depending on the state of your cardio and how hard the spar were. But there are times when boxers also speak in tongues. We're blessed to be able to go to the gym on a regular basis to start with. So as you can see, once again, there's a lot of blessing in the church, and we feel blessed in boxing. There's also the laying of the hands, which is quite a common occurrence in certain churches. And quite obviously in boxing, there's plenty of laying of the hands. Although my intentions might be different and the severity of the laying of the hands might be different, the same concept. And for those reasons and a thousands more, I do believe that over the period of time and the time I've spent in gyms, that the gym is my church and boxing my religion. What makes a good gym has nothing to do with the actual physical location and or equipment of the gym. What makes a good gym are the people, the occupants, the athletes that congregate daily and train and spreading the word. Over my years, I've seen many come and many go. Boxing's not for everyone, but unfortunately, in order to find out if it's for you or not, you have to start the process. There's a rite of passage you must go through before you can determine it's your sport or it's not your sport. And at times that takes a while. But most of the time that can be determined once you start sparring, because it's at that point that boxing really begins. Everything else you've done on the floor with your coach, on the bags and the mitts and things of that nature, has been all theoretical. But once you're in the ring and that bell rings for the first time, all theories are thrown away and life just got real. I've trained many people, helping them achieve their goals in boxing. And believe it or not everyone's goal is to become champion of the world. Some people like the sport, they like participating in the sport, but that's as far as it goes. But anyone that will listen to me, I will gladly share my opinions, beliefs, doctrines, and everything else on boxing. Speaking of coaches, what makes a good coach, actually? Does anyone know the true answer to that question? I mean, you'll probably hear all the canned things that they say that makes a good coach, but let me tell you something. A good coach has to have basic common sense, and it doesn't 100% apply to boxing knowledge, but basic common sense. I've seen videos of certain coaches observing their fighters in the ring while the coach is on the ring apron, and seen one boxer just beat the shit out of another boxer to where this boxer's got to be unconscious being held up by the rope. Coach doesn't even intervene. And to make it worse, the boxer starts hitting the other boxer in the back of the head. That's what I'm talking about, common sense. Before we can get to the actual teaching of this sport and the discipline, I believe a coach must have basic common sense on all the necessary things in life. But if we want to talk about this from a more technical point of view of what makes a good coach, man, there's so many things. I'm not going to waste my time getting them all, but I'm going to tell you from my experience, one thing that has helped me are great students, great pupils, because they also have something to offer and inadvertently teach me, and sometimes even unbeknownst to them. And you know, when that time comes that the coach interlinks with that athlete and they contribute to each other's, it's a great relationship between the coach and the boxer. But besides that, I mean, there's been arguments over the internet. There's a lot of people that think your coach had to have at least boxed pro to be a good coach. And I'm torn between that a little bit. It helps greatly, but just because you've boxed does not mean you will be capable of teaching boxing. There's a lot of great boxers out there that probably couldn't teach boxing. They could advise, they can give advice, obviously. They're good, they're in the ring. But I'm talking about the actual teach boxing to someone that is starting from zero. We have to build them from ground up. So to me, a good coach has those capabilities to teach boxing to all levels. From the beginner to noob, to the guy that's been in the gym for 3 weeks, to the guy that came from the other gym that don't know what that coach was about, but they taught him some crap. Okay? To the extremely gifted. A good coach and or teacher can adapt his teaching to all. Well, most all anyway. There are some people that, like I said earlier, they weren't made to do this. And I do think, in all due fairness, that once a coach or teacher determines this person might sound bad, is not made to do this, best advice might to not continue. I mean, it's already a dangerous sport, man. You don't need to have a 50-fight career for the possibility of brain damage. It could be from one punch sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's a very dangerous sport. So like I said, back to that basic common sense and that coach. You know, if you're expecting your coach to make you good, you can most likely just forget about it. A coach can help you. He can guide you. But that goodness, that greatness, that thing has to come from within you. Either it's there from the beginning, or you find a way to obtain this thing. But once you obtain it, yeah, then the coach can help you get good. But this goes back to my principle of boxing isn't made for everyone. You have to be a different breed of human being. How can you tell someone has potential in their beginning? Now, that's a real good question, because, you know, after a while, it is presumed that a coach with an eye can tell from day one if you're going to make it or not. And I highly doubt that. What you're actually doing is not allowing that person that little bit of time to learn and adapt before you can assess them fully. You know, I most likely was also guilty of this little thing. Just judging the person from day one, already had this foredrawn conclusion. Totally unfair. Especially someone brand new to boxing. It's a very intricate, multifaceted sport. You're not going to pick up on it too soon in the game, unless you're really gifted. Speaking of the gifted, there are some human beings, people, athletes, or whatever, that are gifted at boxing. I mean, without even being trained. For whatever reason this occurs, I refer to it as the boxing gene. I refer to them as being born with a B chromosome, if you may, but a boxing gene. And anyway, I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're the best in the world, but it comes a little easier to them for some strange reason. And that's most likely because they were just born inclined to box more than the next person. Boxers aren't made, man. I mean, it would be nice to be able to breed a boxer from day one, but boxers aren't made. They still have to be cultivated and made. Even the ones that are born with the B chromosome and the extra special gift of having some type of inclination to box without even being trained. As I observed the class holding mitts and kicking and shit, it's a very good topic. Mitts. I mean, over the years, that tool, that instrument used in boxing to hone the fighter's punch and his skills, that tool has grown into something else I don't believe it was really intended to be. So let me talk to you about the mitts real quick, in my opinion, once again. To me, I believe mitts are a luxury most can't afford. And let me explain in better detail why, when, where, why, and how. The majority of the times, I'm the only coach in the gym. And my classes usually have, 15 people. There's no way in hell I would hold mitts for 15 people, let alone 5. But everybody wants mitt work, and everyone needs mitt work to a certain extent. Not that fancy stuff to show off. I'm talking about the real practical training and honing up the punches and the skill. To me, the mitts are the equivalent of the tuning fork to the pianist. That tool is very necessary when used correctly. I mold a lot of my training based upon Muhammad Ali. And maybe not what he did exactly, but what he didn't do. I've often thought that if Muhammad Ali didn't do it and he was able to become champion of the world, we don't need to do it either. Back in the day, there weren't mitts, but boxers seem to get along just fine. Now, I'm not anti-mitts. I like my class to hold mitts, so, we all contribute to holding mitts to each other. Mitts are great for many things. They even benefit the boxer because, believe it or not, from catching those punches, your hand gets nice at punches coming at you in the ring. You get a better feel, things of that nature. But like I said, man, for longevity reasons and saving my joints, I have to limit the amount of impact on my body, etc., etc. But I don't think anyone that trains with me has a problem at the end of the week as far as how much mitt work they get, because depending on the activity of the weeks, if we're fighting or not, we hold mitts for each other. But there's other aspects of this mitt thing real quick. Let me tell you something. I've seen it all when it comes to mitts. I'm not against mitts, but I think mitts should be done true to the game. Instead of the guy sitting there slightly gyrating his glove and the poor damn coach doing most of the work. When things are done true and correctly, the product is usually good. Now, I'm not going to totally knock that Mayweather style mitt work, because I can see that very beneficial to the counterpuncher style of boxing, being slick and stuff, But I'm talking about teaching boxing. And like anything else in life, when you're teaching it, it should be taught correctly. I'm not claiming I'm the best at mitts anyway, but I try my best. Try to use a logical stance when I'm teaching someone in the mitts. I try to get their punches to be long. I move so they don't just stand still, because you can get a little cardio involved in that. You know, maybe a lot of the coaches now these days are just old fat slobs that don't move around because they're fat slobs. But I do believe that a coach should be in shape also, because if you're going to demand your athletes to do this and that from a physical point of view, there are times when you should just lead by example. Sometimes that's the best way to convey that message. It's not to articulate, it's not to speak it, but to demonstrate it actually. The eyes don't lie. Anyway, I believe that's it for me on this little boxing video. That has nothing to do with my actual normal videos. I hope you understand my points, especially on the boxing religion and the gym is the church. It is not a stab or anything negative to any other religion in the world. But you know, there's religions based on snakes and all other kind of things in life. And although I'm not a greatly religious person, I do see the similarities between what I do in the gym with boxing, as I mentioned before, in the similarities I demonstrated. That's it for me. I'm out. Thank you.
Ice H2O, play.
You're gonna have to go through hell.
In this corner,
First thing you
weighing in at 5'30", 290 pounds, it's Rocky.
See, I'm the backyard version of Kimbo Slice rapping. Bars dancing like Muhammad feet. My southpaw sweet as taffy. You got that Larry Holmes swaggy out of shape. Should retire with some dignity. Your patterns out of date. Derrick Rose about that black hole. Doing burpees on the black top, soaking up serotonin. Keeping my back strong. My act sharp as my mind. Momentum picking up. My ex back on my line. She still eats swine. Car lady trying to play me. Wanna set me up to fail. Trying to sell me a Mercedes, knowing my credit ain't swell. I ain't fell for it. I lost child, so I smile while I banish you to hell, boy. We said sail. From hard hats and hammer claps to stages with hammer rap, Persian rug, Malaysian lamp, passport need stamps, in the ring amp. I see the fear in their heart, smell the pussy on their person. It's a beautiful sport.
Cause I'm a fighter. That's the way I'm made. We can't change what we are.
Balboa, turn your whole corner into towel throwers. Quiet riot amongst 1,000 loud smokers. Lung lingo like one single dollar bill and 3/4. Motherfucker, we are unequal. The champ is here. I touch down, the amps appear. Back on my dates and shit. Whole camps in fear. The Voorhees effect. Yep, you niggas need a nap. And fuck your little takeover, Joe. I eat to that. Get it hot as aphrodisiacs. I'm eating tracks. Opposition meet the mat. They introduced, I lead the pack. Been here. You ain't know though? Get in tune, stupid. Brand new year, brand new blueprint. Pews bent, send Mark to church to repent. I'm a walking Old Testament, hell with a pen. Homie, crown me, the sickest, a badge I wear proudly. Doubt me, I make a nigga swallow his mouthpiece.
The greatest night in the history of my life. I just want to say one thing. I did it! I did it!
Motherfucking face mob music, nigga. Motherfucking Ice H2O, nigga. Yeah. Mean dope green.